debate.
I withdraw, Mr. Speaker, for purposes of
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker said the allegation around the African context is not plugged from people. It derives from scholarly research by the Africa Center for Strategic Studies. If anyone has an opposition to that assertion study, they must present a counter study and convince this House why this bill is good. Honorable Speaker, constitutional development across Africa has told us that leadership renewal in many democracies occur not because incumbents voluntarily surrender power, but because constitutional safeguards require them to do so. This is precisely why term limits exist. Not because leaders are necessarily bad, not because continuity is undesirable, but because democracy assumes that no individual, however capable they are, should become indispensable to constitutional order. Mr. Speaker said, what are we told? We are told that Vision 2030 requires continuity. I respectfully submit, Mr. Speaker, said that if national visions depend upon the continuity of particular office holders, then what we have is not institutional development, but personalized development. Mr. Speaker said, I submit with respect that a national vision should belong to the nation. It should survive presidents. It should survive parliaments. It should survive changes in governance. It should survive, Honorable Speaker said, any partisan interest. A bit of comparative constitutional debate. Botswana's development, Mr. Speaker said, did not depend on one president. Ghana's democratic consolidation did not depend on one president. Mauritius' economic success, Honorable Speaker said, did not depend on one president, and the Speaker is also not these issues. Their progress was sustained by institutions capable of carrying national programs across successive administrations. Mr. Speaker said the Constitution should strengthen institutions so that national development survives leadership change. It should not alter constitutional safeguards so that leadership survives beyond ordinarily set term limits. Honorable Speaker, there is another dangerous proposition embedded in the rationale advanced for this bill. The suggestion that democracy and development exist in tension, and that constitutional limitations may be relaxed in pursuit of developmental objectives. Mr. Speaker said with respect, that is a farce. It's false, it's wrong. It's a false dichotomy. Zimbabwe does not have to choose between democracy and development. Zimbabweans deserve both, Mr. Speaker. Development without accountability is fragile. Development without constitutional restraint is unsustainable. Development without legitimacy ultimately undermines itself. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is not an obstacle to national progress. The Constitution is one of the preconditions for national progress. The Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is the people's last line of defense. Honorable Speaker, I am particularly troubled as I take this plane to land. I am particularly troubled by the provisions relating to Section 328, subsection 7. The framers of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, deliberately inserted safeguards preventing incumbents from benefiting from amendments to that extent daily. They understood the temptation that power presents. They understood that those ensure constitutional neutrality. That is what is threatened today, Mr. Speaker. It was designed to ensure that constitutional amendments do not become an instrument for self-extension. Yet this bill seeks to provide that the very incumbents who are presently in office, the President, Parliament, Council, they may benefit from the extension of term. We must cringe, Mr. Speaker, as a nation by such suggestions. We must ask ourselves honestly, if constitutional safeguards can simply be overridden whenever it becomes convenient, what purpose do they then serve? What then remains of constitutional restraint? What then remains of constitutional supremacy, Mr. Speaker? Honorable Speaker, I also oppose the proposal to remove direct election of the President. This is because one of the most profound changes by this bill. In a constitutional republic, sovereignty belongs to the people. The President derives legitimacy directly from the citizens. The people are not spectators in democracy. They are a source of authority. The right to choose the head of state directly is not a procedural detail, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. It is a democratic principle. The people should elect the president. Parliament should not replace the people as the source of presidential legitimacy. If there are deficiencies, Mr. Speaker said, regarding electoral administration, we must strengthen electoral administration. But we do not resolve challenges by removing citizens from the center of democratic process. Honorable Speaker, I am equally concerned by provisions which weaken the independence of electoral administration in this country. We created, by national consensus, an independent institution for the running of elections. Why? Because, Mr. Speaker said, we were coming from a history and a vicious cycle of disputed elections in this country. We decided as a nation, let us allow an independent player, let us allow an independent institution to run the way power is exchanged, the way power is moved in this country. We seek to go back, Mr. Speaker, to the very ill that was cured by the creation of the independent commission. Mr. Speaker said, we stand here not because we are so happy with the commission's work in the past, but Mr. Speaker said, our cause of contention is the manner in which the independent institution has been capacitated to run elections, is the manner in which there's been undue interference with the running of elections. Mr. Speaker, the suggestion to have the Registrar General run the voters' roll and self-keep the voters' roll and register voters, put the executive back into electoral processes, one thing which we fought against by coming up with the 2013 Constitution. The solution, Mr. Speaker, to institutional challenges is not to weaken. Mr. Speaker said, we will adhere to the 1 minute. Historically, Mr. Speaker, the challenges that we have faced as a nation, in as far as elections are concerned, they've been embedded in the overreach of the executive in the function, because when we talk of an election, we go pre-election, during election process, and the post-electoral process. All these functions are anchored in the judgment of a free, fair, and credible election. Mr. Speaker, we must not be retrogressive in our proposal for amendments. I note, Mr. Speaker, that there is also a proposal to amend the function and role of the military in constitutional democracy and constitutional defense. Mr. Speaker, I must remind that the government of the day is a direct beneficiary of the clause that gives power to uphold the Constitution. We must not forget that. Now, we see attempts at coup-proofing. We see attempts at country must be upheld. And whenever there is executive overreach or attempt by the executive to interrupt the very structure and architect of our Constitution,